Redditors who rode the bus to and from school, what was your most memorable moment on the school bus? When some goth kids wrote Pig B on the back of my book bag, I walked around middle school that entire day without knowing. What they didn't realize is I couldn't afford a new book bag. I had to have someone draw a puppy over it. I was in 5th grade going home from school. One of the kids in the year below me decided once he get off the bus that it would be a great idea to moon all the kids still on the bus. Pulled his pants down too far, and everyone got an eyeful of his junk, including the bus driver. He got in big trouble with the school and got teased for ages after that. In kindergarten, some kid on the bus pulled out his dong to show me. I went straight to the bus driver and told her tearfully he showed me his dong, no way she was getting paid enough for that crap. The middle schoolers would always ride the bus at the same time as the high schoolers did in the mornings. Second day of 8th grade and 2 high schoolers in the back had brought their guitars on the bus with them and played the entire way. Anyways, here's Wonderwall. In grade school, a girl with really long hair was sitting next to an open window and her hair got snagged by a tree limb. Ripped a chunk of scalp off her head about the size of a tennis ball. For those wondering, doctors let it heal up and she had surgery later to stretch her scalp to cover it. It ended up looking like a T-scar on the top right corner of her head. You'd never notice it unless she parted her hair to show you. Also, someone later that day ended up finding the chunk of her scalp and hair still tangled on the tree branch, but it was well after she went to the hospital, so they didn't try to sew it back on. Jesus, she's really lucky the force didn't snap get neck. One time my friend pushed me out of the seat and I fell and faceplanted on a guy's dong. I'm a girl. Fell. The bus was always the perfect time to play the dong game, where each person took turns saying the word dong progressively louder. There was always that one guy who just didn't give a frick and would shout doong at the top of his lungs. This game was common in the school auditorium and the library. I went back to my old high school on work business recently and kids were still doing that. It took a lot of effort not to shout back. This is my most memorable moment, period. I had drank lots of coffee the night before trying to stay awake and study for a test. As I got on my bus the next morning, the chutes start to hit me. But this was nothing I had ever experienced before. 10 minutes into my 50-minute bus ride, I'm starting to sweat, then panic. I try making eye contact with my bus driver through that front mirror. Maybe he'll see my distress. Maybe he'll pull over and I can release my stink at Burger King. I ended up squatting over my paper lunch bag and taking a massive dump in it, all while sobbing and staring at the back of a girl who sat in the seat in front of me. Afterward, I was so flustered I just buckled the bag next to me for the rest of the ride. It was a low point in my life. A few months later, I did it again. Frick. My bus caught fire. There was a lot of smoke coming out from underneath, but the driver didn't believe us and kept driving. The next time the bus slowed down, a kid who had helped with the bus evacuation drill a week earlier opened the door and jumped out. Once the driver stopped, the kid started getting everyone out by himself until the driver realized we weren't just being crappy and started helping. We got a new driver after that. My 2 dogs running in front of the bus after school. The bus driver slammed the brakes and the dogs obliviously missed getting hit by inches. A much happier ending than all the other bus stories involving dogs that I've read so far. Playing red light, game where you split the bus in 2. One team defends the red emergency light by the rear exit, other tries to touch it. Bus driver was in on it, would floor it and then slam on the brakes. You had kids flying 4 or 5 rows in the air. BC we would climb seats to get to the light. One kid got picked up and thrown into a window by senior and broke it. We literally beat the crap out of each other for the 30 minutes ride home. But the bus driver was like frick it and drove crazy taxi style and took it to another level. To say that I wish I rode your bus to school is an understatement. Some guy smoked herb on my bus. I was stupid and told my mom. She called the school. I got called into the vice principal's office, and I was a goody 2 shoes nobody. That never happened to me. A girl from my bus was in the office doing work. There were office helper periods sometimes. She would have totally let the guy know it was me who squealed. So I lied and said I didn't know who it was. You got lucky if that was high school. The driveway to our elementary school had and still has, a sewer drain that causes the driveway to dip a little. My favorite times on the bus were asking the bus driver to speed a little over the dip, so us kids in the back could get a sensation of weightlessness. There was also the time where we had a substitute bus driver, also in elementary school, who almost took us to the wrong school. Got over the train tracks. We didn't go over the tracks to get to school. When we pointed it out to her, had to turn into a parking lot and head back to the correct school, causing us to be like 10 minutes late or something. In middle school there wasn't enough space for everyone to sit down. One of the teachers got my crush, who was sitting beside me, to sit on my lap, so another kid could sit beside us. Single greatest bus ride of my life. Kid sticks his arm out the window while holding a ball of aluminum foil, calls the shot and sinks the ball in a trash can as we drive by. Was amazing. We erupted. A dude returned from placement in alternative school, lit a cigarette and answered a phone call during which he was trying to sell a pistol. I didn't see him again after that week. So many fun stories. Last day before winter break, Friday, somebody throws a paper crumbled into a ball. Someone throws another and another and another. Within 3 minutes you could barely see the front of the bus. Literally everybody is throwing paper balls and laughing. Girls, boys, nerds, band kids, good kids, bad kids, seniors through freshmen. Hilarious and crazy. Phil rolled down the window and spit a gobstopper at a car. Car proceeds to cut the bus off in traffic. Stop the bus. Come on the bus and almost physically attack Phil. Cops came for that one and actually took Phil. Goddamn Phil. For a while, I was the paper airplane baron on the bus. I would make other kids paper airplanes as long as they gave me a piece of paper. I was like origami king in middle school. People paid me for paper finger claws and fortune tellers. When I was in kindergarten and elementary school I would go on the floor and slide under people's seats on the bus and scare them. My elementary school bus got egged one afternoon. The bus driver was a sweet old man who always wore one of those old flat caps and never had any problems until then. When the bus got egged he slammed on the brakes and jumped off and chased the kids as screamed and threw his hat. One of the kids that threw the eggs ended up running and leaving his bike behind. If I remember right the driver took it and put it on the bus and then went on with the rest of his route. 5th grade A student put a rubber band around his neck and his brother snapped it. I didn't see it happen, just saw the kid turning blue in the face, rolling around on the ground. The bus driver took us back to school, where an ambulance met us. This one time we got some chicks in a convertible to flash us by holding up a sign at the window saying show us your tea. One time set the fricking scene for years of attempts. The school bully was making fun of my friend because my friend's mom had severe MS while in middle school. My friend pinned him down and I beat him with my trumpet case. That was cathartic. Band geeks don't often get to beat the pee out of someone. A bully stopped me from getting off the bus at my street by blocking the way. I was at the back of the bus then. Also I was very small then, first year of school, so I can't compete yelling out to the bus driver in the middle of the kids hype fest. Finally the bus driver realized I was still in the bus after full lap and sent me home afterwards. On the following year, I got a bike to ride to school, which is awesome. Should have just stabbed the kid with a pen. My sister was getting pestered by our cousin, so she pulled out a hairbrush and put the backside across his face. The driver, my great uncle at the time, looked in the large rear view mirror and hollered all the way to the back. It was a silent ride home from there. My cousin knew it was coming. This was early, mid-90s. We used to ride crappy old buses along an unsealed road. There was a particularly steep hill and one day the bus just couldn't make it, so the bus driver made everyone get out and help push it up the hill. My high school bus was nuts, specifically due to the people who sat in back. It wasn't the best area and there was a large gang influence. The back of the buses were usually of that element. It's understandably unbelievable, but the lady who drove it was super chill, like letting us play rap music over the speakers, knew a bus, and barely protesting when we'd smoke weed or cigs. I recall some putting her foot down, but a fair amount of those present would do it anyways and the rest would just follow. It got out of hand quickly, but it was definitely memorable. I mean, who the frick gets to smoke weed on a public school bus with their friends while the driver is blasting the music of your choice? One time riding home, somebody threw an orange at this black pickup driving the other way and it splattered all over the windshield. Lady flipped around, had the bus driver pull over and got on to find the culprit. Nobody talked and the bus driver was like meh, can't control em. Didn't see who. Sorry, the juvenile delinquent within still thinks it's funny that we got away with it, but I feel bad. 2. Lady was just minding her own business, undeserving of such senseless vandalism. When we stopped to pick up a second and third grader, as most kids that live in the country, their parents had left them to get on the bus by themselves as they had to get to work. Well, these kids had a new puppy, so no one was watching the puppy. Like all puppies, it wanted to stick by its new owners at all times. It chased the kids onto the bus. The bus driver noticed the puppy and, trying to be careful, decided to drive off. We stopped shortly after leaving. Me being the oldest kid, she called me to the front of the bus. She told me that she thinks that she ran over the puppy. She told me to go check. I was 12. I went outside and sure enough, she had ran its head over. Its eyes had popped out of its skull and was hanging by the nerves, kind of like a fricked up cartoon when their eyes bug out. She had me move the dead puppy to the side of the road so no one else ran it over, all while the kids bawled their eyes out as their bus driver killed their new puppy. Getting dry humped by Jeanette. She had no panties on, so not quite dry. Sitting there on my knee rocking back and forward. She got off at the stop before mine and my jeans were damp AF. I never washed them again. She got off at the stop before mine. One time it was really foggy and we were on the way to school. Through the fog we see this shape and it's a tractor coming at us at full speed on the wrong side of the road. We swerved into a ditch as the tractor sped by. Another time the bus was an hour late or so because it got stuck in a snow drift before my stop. I went home before it even showed up. Same bus almost drove off a hill. Same bus wrecked on said hill. Bus driver got fired for always being drunk. 1. I witnessed a girl eat ramen noodles straight out the package. No water or anything. Then she chugged the powder like it was a drink. She did this in the morning for breakfast and in the afternoon for a snack. It was disgusting for me to witness. 2. I also witnessed a kid call the bus driver a freaking pea. Straight to their face. I was in 3rd grade at the time. It was eye-opening. The driver had a new bus that was a manual. On the way home we were going up a steep hill and the driver tried to make the shift to 2nd. After a good long grind and the bus stopped and it started rolling backwards and someone yelled, "We are all going to die." The bus stopped. She managed first and drove 1/4 mile up the hill in 1st gear. A kid threw a PB&J through our bus window into another bus at a stoplight, and it hit their bus driver in the head. It exploded on impact and their bus driver thought someone on her bus threw it, lol. Some kid was messing around with an apparently very sharp pencil and the bus hit a jump and she got some wicked air, sending the pencil partly through her leg. I think I was in grade 10. I lived on a dirt road out in the country, and so in the springtime, the thaw would cause the dirt to form a massive bump at the foot of this one hill. You could set your watch to this bump. It formed about the same time every year, without fail. Our bus driver was fully aware of this bump, but that didn't stop her from slowing down for it. Oh no. She decided one day to go full speed, probably about 50-60 kilometers per hour, over this sumbik. So you know how when you're at the back of a school bus, the bumps in the road are much more exaggerated? This one Asian dude, 2YU, learned about interior bus physics in the most violent way. 2YU was chilling at the back of the bus when we hit the bump. The rest of the bus was silent, save for 2YU's wah. He hit the roof. That was a good day. Cool name. I'm guessing singing happy birthday to him was a great experience. On the way back from a field trip to the fire station, some kid stole some trauma shears. I was his assigned buddy for the day and we had to sit together. He showed them to me and I told him he'd better throw them away before he got back to school. He spun them around his finger and flung them out the window of the bus doing about 45 miles per hour. They stuck 2 inches deep in the right thigh of a morbidly obese, middle-aged black woman. He looked at me with a face that said, "How am I going to explain this to my cellmate?" Bus starts slowing down. We're stopped at a red light. This woman is moving like a linebacker towards us, screaming, "Stop the bus. Dem kids done stabbed me." She catches the freaking bus and is beating on the door screaming call the police and remember lamps. Bus driver opens the door. She gets on with blood pooling by her foot, screaming and pointing at kids who might have stabbed her. Cops show up. My assigned friend is ghost pale and sweating bullets. They didn't even need to ask questions, just took him away in handcuffs. As he is being hauled off, he points at me and says he told me to throw them away. I yelled back, I meant in a trash can, you dickwad. Heard he got 6 months in juvie. Never saw him again. Amber lamps. A kid called me a bee. I shut him down and ran him off the bus. Another girl, in high school, throwing up on me as I helped her. She'd an abortion, was sick and had to go to school anyway. Rumor had it was the result of her father assaulting her. Kids trying to light the seats on fire, lighting stuff on fire and throwing it. Axe bombs. One of the drivers just about swerved off the road to avoid a squirrel. Driving by a Waffle House where Kid Rock was getting arrested at the time. LOL. One of the bus drivers showed up drunk to the football game and was flirting with all the girls. A more wholesome memory was on the last day of school. The bus driver stopped and let us have a paper fight. One of our driver's ed teachers got arrested for DUI. Haha. Axe bombs. I got confused for a second before I remembered the deodorant there. A bus driver named Jim, 4th grade, was born and raised in Alaska. In the winter it gets -30 and colder on the regular, for weeks at a time. Technically kids weren't allowed to wear shorts to bus stop in winter. Jim never said anything to me about it. He went out of his way to be kind to me. A big jolly guy, with a cowboy hat. I can imagine him, with his jolly personality and a belly that jiggled like a bowl full of jelly and his reddish beard that surely turned white. He might have moonlighted as Santa by the time I hit high school. What Jim didn't know, or maybe he did, was I didn't have any other clothes. I didn't have anybody getting me up and off to school. I didn't have love. I barely had safety and only some days. I had little supplies, food, support and love. Jim went out of his way to make me feel special. He must have saw something, or known something. Looking back, he gave me special attention, letting the shorts thing pass. Letting me kinda boss the bus in a totally passive way. Just made me feel good, not in a creepster way, either. I very clearly remember the last day of school. Jim put his cowboy hat on my head. We had never saw Jim without his brown cowboy hat. He took it off and sent me away with a see you later kid. Boy oh boy, if he had any idea. Bus driver Jim that picked me up at 4th and Haller for all of my 4th grade year in small town Alaska. He made a difference. I don't remember what happened to that hat. I'm sure I held onto it for some time. But don't you know I felt like hot stuff walking home with Jim's hat on my head. Thanks Jim. I was 5 years old and a girl on the bus had been bullying me the entire way to my stop. At my stop, I turned around and landed a kick directly to her face and then I spun around and just walked off the bus. I was in 1st grade and a group of high school boys at the back of the bus decided to recruit me to listen to music with them. They said they wanted me to grow up to like good music. They were surprised when I recognized Pantera and Metallica as mom's house cleaning music. I don't think their plan worked. I like some terrible songs. I was a teacher's pet type of kid K-12. I very much sought the approval of my teachers and all adults, and I wanted them to like me more than anything in the world. I was terrified of being scolded or getting a poor grade. I was also pretty sheltered growing up. No brothers or sisters, just my parents, and they were fairly strict about what I could watch on TV or what video games I could play. But keeping all that in mind, this incident happened when I was in kindergarten. I was riding on the bus, and another student approached me. He told me I should stand up and stick both of my middle fingers up in the air. I didn't know what that meant, or that it was bad, so I just did what he asked. The kid then said something like, "Oh my god, you actually did it, you stuck up your middle finger." I was just like, okay, whatever. When we got to school, the freaking brat of a kid told the teacher what I had done on the bus. My teacher yelled at me and told me she was very disappointed in me and made me start recess and timeout. It was much more than my poor kindergarten heart could handle. I was completely devastated, sobbing the entire rest of the day, and when I got home too. If you're reading this, frick you Eric, you kindergarten traumatizing piece of crap. Found out my 8th grade girlfriend would cheat on me with my best friend after I got off the bus and they continued on to their stop. This happened for about 6 months. He ended up being my best man 20 years later. Had a black bus driver who was super funny and friendly with the kids. Whenever his favorite songs came on the radio, he'd pump the brakes to the music and get the bus pumping like it's on hydraulics. Bus driver slipped off a driveway when backing in. He called a tow truck and for another bus to come pick us up. Then he had everyone from the back of the bus move to the front because he was afraid the bus would slide all the way in the ditch with all the weight in the back. The ditch was probably 10+ feet deep and a complete drop off. Another time I was really sick on the way home and threw up on the bus. The bus driver ended up turning and brought us back to school to get a different bus because it was so bad. I went to Catholic school, so my bus experience usually consisted of taking the bus to a different school to transfer, and ending up stranded at a different school on multiple occasions. I also got into a fist fight for no apparent reason. Luckily my opponent who decided to punch me for no reason really sucked at fighting. Finally I got the cool bus driver and he took us to Dairy Queen. Problem is that caused me to miss my connection, leaving me stranded at crappy transfer school. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.